All right, let's do this. You guys ready? Hi everyone.
Ready.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited about this. I am Hadley Keller. I'm the digital director at House Beautiful, and I'm so excited. Thank you to the Black Interior Designers Network for asking me to host this great panel. We are talking about millennial disruption, and this is the first in a series of programming talks throughout the month of June, which is fundraising month for the BIDN. So if you want to support this type of programming, support the Black Interior Designers Network, head to their website, make a donation, and that will support this group. So we really appreciate that. And we hope that you all enjoy this conversation. I'm really excited about the group we have here today. We have three great, talented designers, and we are from kind of all over the country. So I think it'll be really interesting to hear everyone's kind of backstory and expertise. And this is being recorded, so if you enjoy it, you'll be able to watch again after the fact, share with your friends. So please do that. So for a little bit of intro, we have with us, and maybe when I say your name, you can wave so people know who you are, although I think you may have a name badge. We have Whitney Jones, who is based in New Orleans, and she is the founder of Whitney J Decor, a design firm, and she also has a shop. Then we have Leah Alexander, who is based in Atlanta. Her firm is Beauty is Abundant, and she also has a shop. And we have Katie Reed, who is based in New Jersey. His firm is Katie Reed Interiors. And we are all, I guess, because we're here, members of the age group millennials, which I feel like sometimes we get a little bit of a bad rap. But I think, it's interesting to think about how a kind of younger generation of designers are pushing boundaries with kind of so many new tools and, using kind of traditional methods as well as new technology, new kind of strategy. So that's what we're going to talk about. So without further ado, I will kick it off. And our first question is a kind of a good introduction, I think, of is how did you know that you wanted to work in the design field? And did you always see this as a kind of tangible career, or did you come to realize that later on? And I'm going to toss this one. I'm going to spring it on you, Whitney, because I think you have kind of an interesting story here that I've heard before. So take it away, and then we'll go from there.
Oh wow. So no, I didn't know I wanted to be an interior designer. I didn't even know I was a creative until I got into design school, to be honest. I always just knew I wanted to do something, have some kind of career where I would make money. I always wanted to be able to have a career that gave me enough money to help my mom raise my brothers. I'm the oldest of eight, and we shared like a three-bedroom apartment up until I was 14 years old. And literally, I don't like to say we were poor, which we were, but I didn't feel that. We know we didn't have a lot, but one of the things that I used to enjoy growing up was that my mom made the best of what we had. And she would get bored with just our regular furniture, and we would literally just move things around. Every couple of months, she just moved the sofa where it probably shouldn't have been from the beginning, but we'll just keep moving things around. And I think that is what gave me the love of space planning, just being creative with moving things around, making the best use of space. And then, like when I was younger and it was Christmas, I like things, so I'm one of those people that just like stuff. But I've always asked for like bedding, pillows, the decorative things. And when I got into college, I decorated my dorm rooms. And like literally, I think right after Hurricane Katrina, I had dropped out of college like four times, different schools, and I was like, I saw some designer on HGTV, and I was like, wait, people are making money to do this, and that's kind of how I jumped in.
I love that. And I want to circle back to that, the kind of continuation of that for sure. But does anyone else want to jump in on that question? If you, Katie, did you have any ideas of this early on, or was it a later in life realization?
I think from early on, I always knew that I had a creative flair to me, but I think I never really had that connection far as how to monetize it. So I kind of sort of went the traditional route that my family was, and a lot of them are social workers and teachers. I've always been inspired because my mom's been a teacher. She coming home doing arts and crafts. But I didn't go to school for it. So when I actually kind of sort of started doing internships and I really started connecting with people that really started showing me, yeah, this is a real serious career path. And then I was like, oh wow. And then just started seeing so many different different avenues of how people was doing it. And everyone wasn't really doing the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so interesting. And that kind of leads to the next question I have, which is there is really often not such a blueprint for a design career. You have people who go to design school, you have people who don't, who never think of it as a career. So, can you tell us kind of once you made that realization that that was the route you wanted to take? What were kind of the first steps to turning this into, a money making business?
Go ahead, Katie. I'll go after you.
So this is pretty interesting. So I was in my job, I was in my career, I was making really, really good money. And I was coming home every night and I just wasn't really feeling that satisfied. I wasn't really taking the whole interior design thing serious. Like I was doing friends, family houses, not really looking to monetize it. But I wasn't really feeling fulfilled. At the time, Craigslist was really, really hot. And I just started just navigating, just looking at, I was like, I'm in New Jersey. I have access to New York City. And I just started just looking under different fields. And I just saw an opportunity with Descartes Design. And they was kind of like the first people to kind of sort of open up their doors and kind of sort of just give me those resources to let me know like, hey, we see you, you're creative. We know that you have it. Now it's time to definitely change the game.
Wow, that's funny because I started my business on Craigslist. Like I legit, when I was going through design school, I was working a full-time job and I had the audacity to ask my job, like, okay, I'm finished school. I'm ready to like start working in my career. Can I have one day off a week? And they were like, no. And I was like, what? I quit. So I quit. And I literally like put an ad out on Craigslist. I ran an ad on Craigslist, which we didn't have to pay for it. I don't know if they're paying for ads now, but I had an ad for a whole year, $99 a room. For the whole year, I worked for $100 a room and still had a lot of pushback from clients. It was the most awful projects. I did the most awful work, but it was like all the experiences I had, all of the things I learned were just so invaluable. And it was just really, I mean, I wouldn't trade my path for any others, you know what I mean? Because I learned so much. I'm very creative. I learned in business and trying to find ways to make money, find ways to just make it work for me. And I think by jumping in the way I jumped in with nobody to help me, I mean, to be honest, I'm the first person in my family to go to college. I'm the first person that I knew from where I grew up that had a business. Nobody had ever had their own business. So, I mean, for me, it was like I had nobody to look forward to. I've never met an interior designer. Even today, I only have met like 2 designers in New Orleans, and that's just been the last 2 years. So I've never even had any connection, you know what I mean, to know what to do. I just jumped in and made a ton of mistakes, still making them. But I've learned so much. Man, it's been invaluable.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love this Craigslist story. It's amazing. I don't know if people watching know Mikkel Welsh as well. He also started his career on Craigslist, I know, doing design. So this is apparently, the underrated way to begin. But I love what you said, Whitney, about, obviously having a lot of these kind of mistakes and struggles early on, but really those were learning moments. I'd love to dive a little bit more into kind of some of the challenges that were present when you first began that you eventually kind of have learned to overcome. Leah, do you want to take that one?
Absolutely. So both of those stories are sublime. I love Craigslist. I didn't know that was a thing, a way to start your business. So I love that. I think that processes, for interior designers, I think, and entrepreneurs in general, I think becoming like procedurally sound is probably an ongoing, something we're pursuing. It's an ongoing endeavor. I think delegating, now that my firm is growing, delegating to my team so that they can show up and contribute as their highest selves with like clear direction is, you know, something that I'm leaning into, and I just it's a great challenge. It's a worthwhile challenge to overcome, because then you can serve more clients, you know. I mean, those people who are still like, I remember back from Craigslist, Katie, you know, and they want to, you know, hire you now. It's like eventually, you know, you can only serve so many clients. So delegating and getting your processes tight for me is just like, I can overcome like one level, but then as we grow, new processes are required, a new level of clarity with delegation is required. So those are number one and number two for me.
Does anyone else want to weigh in on that, on this? Katie?
Yeah, I can piggyback off of that. I think for me, because when I first started off, and me being so meticulous about the certain image and a presentation that I wanted to give out for my branding, you know, it was kind of sort of a sort of a level of perfectionism that you wanted to kind of sort of present, and not allowing myself to make mistakes. But now that I've grown from that, I'm actually learning how to, you know, not wear so many hats, and learning how to hire within, and, you know, not trying to take on every single task on my own, but kind of sort of now
Yes.
able to allow myself to expand, to allow others to come in that can navigate those spaces, because I can't do everything all at once, even though I've tried to. But you just got to
Yeah.
be realistic with yourself, and to say, hey, it's okay to kind of sort of take a breather, take a relax, and kind of sort of, you know, I think when as my business is growing, and now that I'm learning how to put money into proper resources when needed, now I'm starting to feel like a sense of relief.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, I just want to say one of my biggest, like, you know, something that's held me back a lot in business has been like my money mindset. Every year that I grow mentally, and my thoughts around money, and my thoughts around what I can afford and what people can afford. And once I feel like, you know, stop, I heard this a long time ago and it still sticks with me, like how to stop projecting what I think I can afford onto my clients. Oh, once I got that out of my head, I'm like,
Yeah.
sorry, it's my phone.
Yes.
Once I got that out of my head, things have just been.
It's that powerful.
It's been powerful.
Dropping stuff. It's amazing. Yes. Yes.
I love that. No, that's so true. I think a kind of interesting collective theme here is this idea of growth, right? Whether it's growing your firm or growing the number of clients. And I'm curious how you all kind of, I think that's sometimes one of the really tricky things that designers struggle with, especially when it's your own firm. You know, when's the best time to kind of stretch and grow your team or take on more projects? I'm curious what you all have felt about that. What have been the valuable ways to grow your firm, whether it's in terms of visibility and reach or your own team? Are there any kind of lessons that you can impart about growth in that way?
I would say for me, I know visibility has been a part of it, as far as like word of mouth or doing interviews like this. But a big thing for me has been Google, to be honest. I'm a tech girl, so I love putting myself out there on the internet. I mean, if people, I do so many consultations, it's crazy. Y'all wouldn't even believe, like that's one of the biggest parts of my business. I love them. It's like I know a lot of designers do not live by them, but it's like quick money.
Yes.
I'm constantly in people's mind. They're telling their friends. I give so much value in consultations. It's constantly it's like a business in itself, where it's helping market me on the side. And so that's been really major for my business. So a big part of like getting myself out there has been just putting myself on the internet, because that's how people have been finding me for those consultations. I had a person who had a consultation 4 years ago who reached out to me to hook me up with some partners or some people that she knew to get me on a commercial project.
That's
so
awesome.
I mean, it's been game changer for me since I first got in business.
And you charge for those consultations, right?
Of course.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Let me just say, yeah, of course, right? Of course, resounding, of course. So I had a consultation at a commercial property. And she's a businesswoman through and through. And she said, you know what, Leah, the reason why, you know, I mean, among other things, but the reason why I'm so interested in Beauty is Abundant is because you charged me for your consultation. And she said, you know, I had 2 or 3 folks come through here and we chatted and great work. but they didn't charge me for the consultation. And, you know, I'm a businesswoman and we're running businesses here. And, you know, I need to feel confident in your ability to operate as a business person alongside me to create this, you know, to work within the 65,000 square feet or whatever. And I know some of the most talented folks who waffle on that. And I don't think it serves, you know, I get wanting to, you know, be to give and be of service, but that comes at, you know, that comes at a cost. You know, your input's valuable. So I love that. I love that. And I wanted to speak, I'm sure Katie, I don't know if you're gonna say something about the consultations, but no, Hadley, you asked, you know, one thing about like how do we grow, or how do we know, or what's been a step that we've taken to pursue growth. And, you know, for me, the things that have caused me, the opportunities that have caused me to pause and kind of like rack my brain and almost lose sleep have been the ones that when I got into a place of yes about them and about my ability to make it happen, those have helped me grow the most. So specifically like this office, right? Teeny tiny office, and you know, it's wonderful and I love it. But when the opportunity presented itself, I was like, eek, you know, overhead, scary, like sounds a little like, I don't know. But then I thought about, like, I did the cost benefit, you know, analysis, and just like, you know, how can I show up better for clients if I do this? You know, how is this going to contribute to my growth? What might my social media look like if I do this? Or what might my whatever, my sample library or whatever. And so getting a really small little office that is, you know, separate from my home, which I worked from for the first 2 years, that has really contributed to my growth. It's contributed, you know, I'm going to the office. It's created a different feel for me. It's allowed me to welcome my team into a space that is strictly for Beauty is Abundant. You know, I have my consultations here. I have vendor presentations here. You know, I can receive small little packages here. And it's just, it's been tremendous for growth. And then bringing on an intern and then transitioning her into my design assistant officially at the beginning of this year, you know, getting help, to Katie's point, getting help and getting a space in which I utilize that help have been like game changers.
And I, you know, in talking about kind of growth, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't. I think everyone expects any group of millennials to talk about social media, which is for better or for worse. But I think that comes into play here too. Obviously, that is such a tool that, you know, didn't necessarily exist for people starting a business 10 years ago. That ability to kind of market yourselves. And Whitney, I'm curious, you talked about, you know, being all over Google. Do you feel like a social media presence is a part of that? How does that play into your, you know, your kind of strategy for putting yourself out there and raising awareness?
Yeah, I don't want to be that. I'm trying not to be that designer or that business person that gets so busy that they slack off on social media, but I have definitely gotten to that point.
That's
trying
good.
to get better at that. But I mean, as I was growing, since I've been in business for almost 10 years in January, I didn't even realize that. But I learned that as my social media grow, my visibility grows, as well as my clients and my projects, they evolve as well. So I learned, this is something that just kind of blew my mind a few months ago. I came to the realization that clients also, not just brands, like see you and see your value in the kind of followers and the amount of followers you have, but clients do too. Like I see clients, like they think I'm famous because I'm almost at 20,000 followers. I'm like, I wish I was famous.
You are famous, girl.
You're famous, yeah.
Like, especially husbands, they're like, yeah, this is the famous designer you were hiring. I'm like, famous? I'm not famous, but it helps. I mean, people see value, literally, they see value in coming to them with a price. I know my mindset has changed too, so that could be a little bit of it as well as to the success of my business growing, as at least the growth of my business. But I know a lot of it has to do with people look at your social media followers, especially those clients who find you on social media, and they see authenticity in that. They see, oh, she knows what she's doing in that. You know what I mean? Like when you're, especially now, especially more millennial clients too, they feel like you're supposed to be on social media. If you're not on social media, how do you have a business? And I see that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I want to let, if anyone else has things to add on to that, I definitely want to hear. But I want to kind of add on to that. I'd love to hear how you guys specifically see social media. Do you see your Instagram, your Pinterest as a kind of portfolio for people to view, or is it more behind the scenes and you're saving those broader images for press or for your own site? How do you kind of define what your social media presence looks like?
Well, for me, social media is more of a behind the scenes.
Mhm.
I do like to put some images on, but the last year and a half, I think just the coronavirus thing has just discombobulated all of us. So I just never know what to post. I never really show any of my great images. I mean, I haven't posted any of my work in the last year, and I've completed like 7 or 8 large projects, and I didn't post anything. It's a lot of like behind the scenes that I'm showing, and I leave a lot of the finished work for my website.
Mhm.
I agree. I like that as well. I think for me, like me starting over my page and stuff with the whole new rebranding thing, I think now has kind of sort of been like really like a chance for me to showcase like other aspects of, you know, other than finished projects, because people really don't want to see the finished thing. They want to see, you know, the process. They want to see you get angry. They want to see the goods, the bads, you know, they want to see the delivery process. And I think it makes it more interactive. I think it shows the engagement with the brands. It also shows with the clients as well. It formulates a story. It shows them like the behind the scenes process of, you know, almost like your own kind of sort of TV show, your own synopsis going on into your world. And me, like right now, even though I'm not really have that large of a following on my networks, I think I learned how to navigate and use the power of hashtags. That for me really has kind of sort of opened up the world as far as like different sponsors wanting to reach out for brand opportunities, different newer clients coming in, and it's really been. And I'm like, you know, hey, how did you come across me? You know, how did you find me? And they was like, hey, through social media, I put in such and such, or you know. So I love word of mouth, but really having that you like she said, like Whitney said, you can't have if you don't have an online presence, you basically don't exist. A website, it seems so like, yes, that stamps you as official, but just having that online presence. And this is something funny too as well, because I've recently started getting into TikTok as well, and I'm like, oh my god, that's like a whole nother that I can't wrap my I'm like, I can't even navigate Instagram first. Let me do one thing at a time. And these are, and honestly, these are kind of key moments where I'm kind of happy where I'm starting to develop a design assistance, because one, someone from a younger perspective than I can show me more hipper, innovative ways to kind of sort of say, you know, to rebrand and make it more fresh and innovating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's great. I love you talking about, I mean, I think that's such an interesting idea too. And even for us at House Beautiful, it's often there are just so many outlets, you know, there's so many different, it's, you know, we had Facebook and then we had Instagram, and now it's, oh my gosh, do we have to be on TikTok, and finding the balance of how you or who you want to speak to on each one. I'm curious too, to kind of look at the opposite side of that. Obviously you're, you know, you have websites, you're on Instagram, you're on TikTok, some of you. What about, how do you see more kind of maybe traditional old school things like traditional media, or like show houses, or maybe talks even like this? This is a little bit more of a modern take on this since we're doing this virtually, but are those kind of things that you see as playing into your strategy as well, or is it more really digitally focused at this point?
Leah, you haven't said anything in a while.
Right, Leah, on the spot.
Well, no, I mean, so first of all, can I just like, I almost want to run it back just 2 seconds. So when I think of social media, and you guys, please tell me if you agree or if this is the case, I only think of one thing. So like, can we just say, I mean, when I think of social media, what do you think of? Instagram, right? Is that what, or not? Are you, right? Right? Okay, so yes, right. It's like, okay, so Instagram, and Whitney, shout out to Whitney. So we, Katie, Whitney, all of us, Hadley, we are Instagram fam, you know, so we like see each other's activities and it's amazing. And I just wanted to say quickly that, you know, another value add in being active on social media, Instagram, to say, is that other designers in other markets who learn about you and get to know you in that, you know, through those channels, can refer clients. You know, they might have someone who reaches out to them and they can't service them, and they just saw something amazing you were doing in your stories, so then they think of you and they say, you know what, actually, and they can send them your profile or website. And so that's nice to stay first of mind, not just to prospective clients, existing clients and so forth, but to other designers in the community. So that's just something that I'm seeing lately that I'm really excited about. But to answer your question, Hadley, I absolutely value editorial features, panel discussions, more traditional ways of being exposed or things like that, because I mean, they all compound. I mean, I can't just be an Instagram story. I can't just be on Reels now. Like, wait a minute, I have to do Reels now too to be relevant. Like, it's a lot. But times when I can mix this in, I think that I think it's important. I think it's a different conversation that we're having here that we might not obviously be having on Instagram. So I really do. I think that conversations on panels, show houses, top 5 for me, top 5 way of doing your work without a client. I'm the client in a show house, so that's exciting. But I think that just getting a good mix is great. But the other thing I just want to say, with social media, I know there are a lot of outlets, but for me, I just pick 2. Like, for me, it's Instagram and LinkedIn, and like that's it. Because there's not enough time. It's really hard to do all of it well. It's LinkedIn, and Pinterest, yeah, kind of here and there, but yeah, LinkedIn and Instagram for me. I find that existing clients who maybe aren't millennials are really active on LinkedIn, and then of course we can do the behind the scenes and have fun on Instagram.
Yeah, that's interesting. First, before I go to the next question, I want to say I see some people raising hands in here. If you have a question, we will take audience questions, absolutely. So if you have a question, drop it in the Q&A tab or the chat, and I'll read those once we're done. We'll definitely leave time for that. But my next question, so obviously all this talk about growth and visibility, the end goal in that, right, is clients, right? But I think we all know that there's such thing as not an ideal client and an ideal client. I'd love to hear a little bit about what you see as an ideal client, and is that vision of an ideal client different than it was when maybe you first started your business? Have you kind of honed in on that, or have you widened or narrowed? What has it been? Anyone feel free to grab this one.
My hand's gonna just go like up out of the screen out, because when I tell you, I scream this from the rooftops. My ideal clients, I have 2: Diddy, like everything, and the Dream, who's here in Atlanta. And I always say it because saying that out loud, I think, is just a step toward manifestation. But I like working with clients who are kind, who are really, they seem to be kind and influential within their own right. Clients who are kind of in a place of yes, when it comes to working with someone, that's really important. And just folks who kind of have similar foundation of how to show up in the world, just caring for other folks, exploratory, expressive, all of that stuff, so that makes for a really fun project and has been consistent for me since, for the past 10 and 12 years. It's been the same.
That's great. I think people don't often think, or people not in the design world, of how personal it is. I mean, it's such a personal relationship. You're looking at in the intricacies of these people's lives, their bedrooms. What's your bathroom routine? How do you sleep? I mean, you have to have that kind of comfort. Katie, I saw you nodding a lot at various points. Do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, right now, I've been back and forth between residential and commercial spaces. But as I've kind of sort of harnessed and worked in commercial spaces, my ideal client, what I want to target, is really starts to work with boutique hotels. That's sort of like a goal that I want to obtain, what I will obtain. And I just think that's the reason why I kind of sort of expand my range of events that I kind of sort of curate, from show houses to like design on a dime events. And because those are not a typical designer, a client, those are kind of sort of access points where you can kind of sort of have free range to kind of showcase your creative ability with no holds bars. And honestly, like everything I do is intentional. So when I do those show houses and do these little events, it's really to kind of sort of, those are not really geared toward my residential clients. Those are geared toward people that are willing to kind of that are wanting to take these boundaries with designs, go to the next limits, you know, because it's definitely risk-taking ideas, but it's definitely going to be, you know, something that's new, fresh, and innovative.
I would love to share too. You know, when I first started, my ideal client was anybody that can afford to pay for me. And nothing.
Like a lot of people are, yeah.
It was like anybody that could buy stuff for their house. Like I literally was like, I had no vision at all for people that can afford design services. I didn't even know the kind of things that I purchased today. I would have never even imagined, you know what I mean? That back then, like, and I was never a cheap person. Like I'm not cheap. I've never been. I don't like cheap stuff. I like nice things. But at that time, what I thought was cheap versus expensive is way different than now. And like now I'm at the point where my ideal person is like, my ideal client is just a person that loves me, a person that adores me, a person that knows they follow me on social media and they're like, I really like this girl. That's my ideal client, because those are the people that I can convince to purchase stuff. Those are the people seriously, but those are the people that trust me. Those are the people that know, if you know me, you know I always have your best in mind. You know I'm not trying to scam you. You know I'm not trying to just take everything out your pocket. Like if you really know me, and I'm very visible online on social media. I give a lot of insight into my personal life. So I think people can get a sense of like my personality. Like if you really know me, you've been following me for a while, you know that I'm a good person. You know that I'm going to take care of your money. I'm going to take care of your family, and you can trust me. And usually when that's the case, most people who hire interior designers, especially when you see like our fees, right? I have a minimum budget and a minimum fee listed on my website. So once you've gotten to that point, typically you can afford most of the stuff that I want you to get. You know what I mean? I'm not like Kelly Wersler type of budget yet. You know what I mean? So I feel like people who get past what my initial fees, what my consultation would be, and past like what the minimum fee would be, then on my discovery call, like I talk about money so much now. I like try to scare clients away. Because I'm like, yeah, it's not gonna be cheap. This is how much it is. I like talk about money so much because I want them to be comfortable with the fact that I'm gonna be sending you invoices. You're gonna have to pay on time. And those kind of people who know me, that like I say, adore me, they trust me with that, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's a really interesting point. I mean, honestly, I don't think a lot of people do list their minimums on their site. And I think that's probably, a smart strategy to be upfront about, and just, cut through people who aren't gonna want to do that. Yeah. I'm gonna switch gears a little. We have a couple more questions, and then we'll take some from the audience. So please type them into the Q&A function if you have them. This is maybe one of the questions I'm most excited to hear, and it is: what is the one thing in your career that you did that felt like the biggest risk, but which had the biggest payoff?
My design studio. Literally, I yelled this to the moon as many times as I can. Like, you guys, I don't know if you understand like how crazy that is for me. Like to invest, which my husband and I, we bought a house, which there's not a lot of people that I personally know, at least now as an adult, meeting people outside of my family, outside of people I've grown up with, we've all been, I hate to say the word poor, but we didn't have a lot, you know what I mean? And there was not a lot that a lot of people attained, or was dreaming for. It was just getting by. So a lot of things, a lot of achievements that I've made, it's always been a little bit extra than what people expect that I've grown up with, and that my early circle back in my, teen years and stuff like that. So for me to invest in that kind of overhead, I have a 1,900 square foot studio. I mean, that's crazy. It's just, I would have never imagined that I could do that, still be able to afford our house, and then be able to pay for some kind of overhead for a business. Like, that's insane. But I told my husband, I was like, we're going to do what we have to do. If we have to sell, I told him, and he was like, yeah. I'm like, if we have to sell a house, we'll move into the back. And we just gonna do what we gotta do because this is like my dream. This is something that I believe in. I feel like I've changed so much. My mindset in business and around money has changed. I'm gonna keep this studio. I'm gonna make sure I can afford it. I'm gonna make the money to be able to pay for it. And literally, like, it's been life changing for me. You know what I mean? Like opening up my shop, having my studio, clients like are so wild. Like when I have presentations at my studio, we have so much fun. I liquor them up. I mean, I give them so much wine.
Okay, I
And
want to come by.
I'm like, here, drink up. They love that stuff. You know what I mean? And having just this space where I send a lot of my things to a lot of my furnishings to receivers, but I also get a lot of small packages at my studio. And then the front part is like my little retail shop, which is really cute and quaint, but it's just been game changing. Like it just gives you so much legitimacy in the business. It is what it is. That's kind of what it does, like at a whole nother level. And it's just been the best investment I've made, the best decision I think I've made in my life, besides marrying my husband.
See, within earshot, he's like,
Naturally.
Leah, you wanna answer this one?
Absolutely. I mean, I second that. Whitney, you have said a couple of absolute words today. So yes, that's amazing. And design studio here, yes, my office is definitely, it's been a huge risk and opportunity for growth for me. But, before that, I had to make the decision to go out on my own, right? I mean, Katie as well, had his career in place and was moving through the motions. But after 10 years of that, it was just, I had outgrown it. So taking that step was just huge, but it was like flashing yellow arrows from the universe this way, and I just knew if I didn't make that decision, then I would be doing myself a disservice. So that's number one for me. And then getting my office was a huge step and a nod to that step that I took.
Awesome. It's been great. I know, Leah, how amazing it's up from here, girl, because that has just been incredible for me. I love it. Everything about it. I mean, just to be quick, I've employed my sister. My sister works with me full time. My sister bought her first car off of money she's made from working with me. Like, I mean, I pray about this business all the time. And I'm so grateful that I had even just the confidence to just go ahead and do it. I make a lot of decisions very on the whim. And literally, I had no intentions. This was not planned. I saw this place the day before Christmas or 2 days before Christmas. And I was just like, I just want to see what it looks like. I walked in there and I told my landlord, I'm like, I'm going to get it. Didn't know how I was going to pay for it. This was right before the pandemic. I mean, I had clients, but like, not like that. You know what I mean? I'm like, however I have to pay for it, we're going to make it work, and it's been incredible. And I'm not saying everybody should do it. I just feel like if you have the opportunity, some kind of way to get a studio outside of your home, something where clients can kind of feel the legitimacy of having a business, it's game changing.
Game changing, and saying goodbye to plan B, which is what you did. Yes. I mean, that's just signaling that it's this. Yes, the space is space, it's 4 walls, but what you are signaling to the universe or whatever language we choose to use, that is huge. I mean, the things that started happening consistently after making that choice, it was just the right thing. So you just have to, like you said, trust your intuition. I mean, it wasn't a win for me at all. It was actually really scary and took some time. But I think that getting a space, I think it is a differentiating factor. But working from home, I mean, every single phase, I do it until we're bursting at the seams, right? So I mean, if it works for you, then do that. And yes, you have to worry about profit and all these things, but yeah, it's amazing. Just being willing to take a risk and then just banking on yourself. It's incredible.
Katie, do you have a risk you wanna share?
I think for me, it was hiring a design assistant. I think really fully allowing to trust someone to delegate my day-to-days. I think that was something really big for me. Once again, as I said, like I'm a perfectionist. So to allow someone to kind of sort of enter my space and give them full range is really big on trust and responsibility, far as really giving that person the access. And my design assistant, they just are amazing. They just help me change this game.
Shout out to them. That's
That's
amazing.
great. Yeah, and that growth, I think that's definitely a tricky step. Well, along those same lines, and I know Katie, you kind of answered this with your hotel question, but I'd love to hear from Leah and Whitney. What are the next things, goals that you hope to achieve, or that you've set as your kind of next thing you'd like to accomplish?
I want to branch out and start getting some traveling projects.
Hmm.
I have not made that like a priority. I have a lot of people over the years that have reached out to me about that. And I just can't put my mind on what could I charge? How would that work logistically? And I just never put enough time in it. But I love traveling. I would love to have a client that lives in Texas or Atlanta or New York. I have a client right now that lives in New York, but the home is in New Orleans,
Yeah.
you know. I'm gonna ask her if I can take her to her New York house too. But that's kind of what I want. I want to be able to travel. I would love to have an international project. I've done international projects digitally, virtually, but I would love to be able to travel out of the state for projects.
It's funny you asked that because and then Leah, I'll come back to you with your goal, but one of the questions in the Q&A so far is do you work in other parts of the US? So the answer seems to be that people want to, but I know also Katie, I believe you do virtual too. Maybe you guys can talk a little bit about I'll ask Leah for your professional goal next, and then maybe let's talk a little bit about virtual design and if you guys have experimented with that.
Love it, love it. Well, it's funny, Whitney, that you say that because Beauty is Abundant has a small satellite office in Los Angeles, effective last like a couple weeks ago.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm really excited about that. Yay, yay! So I am, I am happy. I'm from Los Angeles, but I've been here in Atlanta where I started my business, and so I'll be serving clients in LA for a few days a month, 3-4 days a month, which I'm just over the moon. And it just to add the Los Angeles design consultations on my website next to Atlanta and virtual was just like a whole nother level. Like it just felt really amazing. So so that was, so I mean, until recently, that was also a goal of mine. Book, enough projects eventually to put together a coffee table book. Like I already know what it looks like, just that's really, really important to me. I love coffee table books. We all do, I'm sure. And TV at some point, I'm constantly looking at how I can help shift the paradigm. Of course, we're big on representation matters and all of that. So really, really getting out there in that way is important to me. And yeah, I mean, I would love clients outside of LA and Atlanta, but for right now, meet me at in LA or here in Atlanta. Sure.
Great. And so to build on that, does anyone want to talk about virtual working with clients in different areas?
So I work with clients. I think one of my first e-designs was for an Australian company called I have a fly somewhere, called like Victoria Plumb or Plume. And it was my first virtual project. It was when I was maybe right when I was opening up my business. I still don't know how they found me, but I did some 3D mock-ups through SketchUp for their bad products. They sold like toilets and faucets and stuff like that. But I virtual design is a big part of my business because I've been doing this for so long. A lot of my business was virtual because I've always kind of built my business online on the internet some kind of way. From my blog, a lot of times, like when I used to blog, I was really big on SEO up until like the last 2 years. But on my blog, like there's always a call to action to book me for a virtual consultation. Like it was always my thing. Like I have this checklist that I have where it's always this plan to action or call to action with everything I do. And I make sure what's my goal. I want to get virtual clients. I want to book that. That's such easy money. So I love to have, to think always trying to think in the future of how can I get clients to know this is what I do and to be able to take on more projects. And it's such easy work. You know what I mean? Clients who book you virtually, they don't pay as much. I know a lot of designers charge pretty much the same, but I charge a lot less than what I charge for local work because it's so easy for me, and it's just really fun, really easy. I get to service more people get to hear about me. And yeah.
That's great. And KD, what about you?
Yeah, I would kind of say the pandemic with the whole virtual designing that kind of sort of helped sparked my business. As everyone was transitioning, working from home, and didn't have the privilege of actually visiting these actual homes. I mean, I had to get creative. I had to get innovative. I said, hey, I'm going to teach you how to measure today. Okay. So it was like really engaging. It was a new process as far as me stepping out of my comfort zone and really having to adjust to, the way it is. But like Whitney said, I did get a sense of an instant kind of quick turnaround time as far as making money, servicing clients, great word of mouth. So this kind of sort of led like a piggyback effect, which kind of sort of sparked greatness.
Great. Awesome. We have a question in the chat directed at Whitney. How do you market your consultation services?
On my website, I no longer do ads. I stopped doing ads about 4 years ago because it worked so well for me. Like when people, a lot of times I get a lot of people that search New Orleans interior designer. I come up on like the second page, sometimes the first page, and my work is so vibrant. People naturally navigate to my website. And from my website, I give so much information. If you go on New Orleans interior designers website, they are very, very vague about the way they work. It's almost like it's some kind of club that you have to be invited into. And from my website, I mean, all my secrets on my website. So people learn a lot about me. You can go on my website, or you can go on my Instagram, my Facebook. I'm all over the internet except on TikTok as of now. But I'm everywhere.
TikTok. See, we're old.
So it's like when people, especially as people Google like Black interior designer, like literally they're like the first page of Google, there's 10 articles. All of them are like pointing to me.
That's great.
So I'm literally like, it's so easy to market my consultations. And I think what happens is when people call me for consultations, usually people book it directly online. Because again, everything about my business is online. I have it all set up. You go do your consult, you do your questionnaire. I even have a part where it says you don't want to do the questionnaire, just go straight to my calendar. You pay for everything before I even come out there, before I even talk to you. And I'm not like a lot of other designers who feel like they need to talk to the client before they come to a consultation. Nope, I'll go over there. I give lots of value at consultations. Clients love that. I don't intend to book for extensive services every client I go to a consultation for. That's not my goal. You know what I mean? My goal is to get as many consultations as I can. And so when people go on my website, sometimes they might want to call me. And once I'm on the phone with them, I mean, I don't think I've ever, at least in the last couple of years, had someone call me about a consultation and didn't book a consultation.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, I think you kind of gave an answer to my next question, which is, and I want to, since we only have a little bit of time left, I want to get to this. I'm going to add the challenge of, in one sentence, what do you think it is that most sets your firm apart from comparable ones in your market or similar ones? Leah, do you want to start?
Sure. I think having the Beauty is Abundant design studio to welcome my clients into is a huge differentiating factor for sure.
That's awesome. KD, what about you?
I would think my innovativeness. I think my fresh approach, my new creative designs. I think just being fresh and new on the market, presenting things that are new, never seen before, would be the thing that I present.
That's great.
I was just going to say, I think for me, it's just my personality, my ability to be personal, but also professional.
Yeah, no, that's important. And I think we've gotten to the ones in the chat. If anyone has any late breaking questions, please drop them in. Well, I'm going to ask my final question. I'll ask it to all of you, which is, if you could offer one piece of advice to a young creative, what would that be? And I'll let anyone grab that first.
This always stood out to me because we're in the age of social media, and this is very pivotal. No one posts their failures. and the first time I started hearing that, it really didn't hit me. It wasn't really a game changer for me until several things in my personal life really started happening. And I say that just because most of the time we get so fixated at what the overall finished package is, we never really get the chance to really appreciate the steps, the hard work, the preservation taken to get to those steps. And many people don't see that process. So, you know, I would leave with no one posts their failures.
I would love to piggyback off of that because that's so true. Like, I've failed a ton of times. I am such a risk taker. I've done so many things. I've had so many side hustles that have just been waste of money. I've never posted them. I say, when people ask, you know, if we're having conversations like that, of course I'm going to talk about it. But I mean, several of my projects, a lot of my projects didn't go well. I'm not like consistently talking about that unless someone asks me, but that's true. We don't talk about that. So my advice would always be do it anyway.
Yes.
Do it anyway, regardless, do it anyway.
Yep, that's exactly what I would say is start before you're ready. I think that, you know, typically ready is not a thing. And so starting that clock, you know, everything takes time. So go ahead and start the clock and make some of the mistakes and take some of the risks and then start reaping the benefits.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, this has been wonderful. I feel like this almost hour flew by. I could chat with you all for another hour. This was really fun. Thank you. And thank you to everyone watching for joining. And again, if you missed at the beginning, this is part of the Black Interior Designers Network June fundraising month. So please head to their website, donate if you can. And we hope you enjoyed this. And of course, please go, if you don't already, and follow all of these wonderful designers on Instagram. Check out their websites, maybe book a consultation. I don't know. Thank you all. Thank you three. This was great.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.